Go.
All right, if we're gonna go, then we should probably go soon. I don't know when. Probably about we should really time this out right about. Oh, sounds good.
How about now, baby?
Now, baby.
This is Mornings with Matt, the Deering Acting Studio podcast, where we discuss the connection between life and acting.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mornings with Matt. So excited to be here this morning. We've got Mr. Herb Jackson Jr. on the show.
Woo!
AKA the host of 5 Minutes with Herb, the YouTube show that is taking over the nation by storm.
It's flying, if you will.
Oh,
come on. Come on.
So Brian is the just absolute most awkward person in the world, and he throws in these just wonderful jokes, Herb, and I don't know how he does it.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's the sound over there on your end?
I've got you guys loud and clear. How do you hear me?
Sounds good, sir. Sounds good. So I'm going to take a little note out of your book here, and we're going to try to make this first 5 minutes the best 5 minutes of this entire show.
Best 5 minutes of your day, sir. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to start off with how great is this? I want to show you this thing. So we have a nonprofit called Lighthouse Theater.
Okay.
And our idea. This show is part of it. We're trying to spread light-driven content to the planet. That's part of our vision. And so we use comedy to do it, and any other venture. Brian and I do a lot of speaking engagements. Joey makes videos for us. Anyway, we had one of our comedy players handcraft these lighthouses for each and every one of our comedy players. It was so cool. Brian, you want to show yours too?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable. And so basically you turn on the light here.
I would try, but Nub said right there.
Nub said there.
Nub said, oh, man.
All right. Yeah, isn't that cool? Isn't this like amazing?
That's freaking awesome. But you guys, I got to get you on video. I don't have you on video here.
Oh yeah, Joey. Well, then how are you supposed to see what we're doing?
Yeah, you
that
can't
would be
see how
impossible.
amazing it is.
There we go.
Hey.
Isn't that cool?
Now
Check this
you
out,
can see
Herb.
how amazing it is.
I'm like, bro, I can improv and ad-lib as long as I can, but I need a little visual to help me out.
Yeah. It's like, it looks like a beautiful lighthouse in my mind. In my mind.
Yes, all up here.
And each
Yeah,
one
that's
had
great,
like
guys.
a little handwritten note, which was cool.
Yeah.
To each player.
Yeah.
So definitely
So thoughtful.
gonna keep these on the shelf forever.
So big shout out to Corinne. Thank you, Corinne.
Woo!
Amazing. All right, Herb. So let's get right into the nitty gritty here. How did you get started with the 5 minutes with Herb?
5 minutes with Herb. First of all, Matt, Brian, Joey, thanks for having me here today. Very excited to be here. And 5 minutes with Herb actually just kind of came up out of nowhere. I do some work. Actually, let's go back. I'll start about a year ago. I took some training over in LA. It was a red carpet hosting class. So basically, I was learning how to host red carpets. 3-week course, couple hours a night on Sunday nights. And at the end of the class, they selected, the quote unquote, best student was able to then host a segment on their show. They're on cable TV in the LA, New York, Atlanta, all those areas. And so I fortunately ended up top of the class. So I was able to host a segment. Flew back over to LA, did the segment. And over time, I was called back to do, several other segments. And I kept calling them saying, hey, do you have anything for me? And basically, I want to say it's probably mid-June. The lady says, well, why don't you do your own show? And I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, you've been doing this a little bit. Get out there and do your own show, create something. And I had been told before by another friend that part of the deal is you need to create some of your own content. I could sit here and wait for, the agent to call, or, look for castings online and wait, or you can go out there and create something yourself.
Yeah.
So it kind of hit me strange. I was like, whoa, am I able to do this? I don't YouTube, who am I to do this? Right. So it's one of those things, you just get in there and just go. So I just created a name 5 minutes with her, because starting off, I was like, well, anyone can have a conversation for 5 minutes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So no matter how bad I do, I can at least make it for 5 minutes. So that was the genesis to start with. Work with a booking company and get some the guests. And for me, it's been an unbelievable experience. I mean, that's partially how I ran across you guys. Understanding how YouTube works, cameras, microphones, editing, all this stuff that goes into this. I had no idea before. I'm learning as we go along now.
That's awesome.
Dang.
Yeah. Brian said you had that you had seen our show at one point in time, and then you kind of like reached out and connected with him through that, right?
Yes, I was actually. I want to think. Let me see. Maybe it was Kate. You had a friend of mine on your show, and she had, tweeted it out or whatever. So I'll go check it out. So here I am. I'm watching your show, and I'm just like amazed, because the audio, it's crystal clear. The sound was unbelievable. Your presentation, the way you guys all, mesh together. I was like, man, this show is something that I want to strive to be here in the future. So I just happened, going on YouTube and made a comment. Hey, love your show. It's crisp. It's clean. I love the delivery. My goal one day is to have a show just as clean as yours. From that moment on, a comment came back, thanks for the good feedback, and ended up being the point where I came to your improv show a couple weeks ago. Ordered your book online. I've looked at your studio and am going to enroll in a few classes there.
All right. Hey.
All through the power of social media and YouTube.
Yeah, and the power of reaching out and complimenting someone else and loving someone else all of a sudden puts you in a frame where you're going to be a part of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I know we'd love to be a part of what you're doing and help you out in any way, shape, or form. I promise you that. So very cool. So tell me about the book. You said you read the book. What are some takeaways there?
I thought the book was excellent. It's not too long, not too short. The explanations and it lays things out really, really well. For me, it's, how do I want to say this? It comes from within. The fact that, someone goes out and buys that book says, hey, they're really looking to learn. The information you provide in there, it's kind of in a motivational way, because I believe to be successful in this, you have to almost have, I don't want to say unhealthy, but almost like an unhealthy self-confidence in yourself, because you're going to get told no 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And your ideas are, probably going to get laughed at, probably from some of your closest friends, your quote unquote friends.
Right.
It's difficult. So unless you have a really strong belief in yourself, provided with some tools like the book that provides, I think you're going to struggle a little bit. I love the fact that, you lay out, there's different steps, the whole notebook thing was pretty crazy, because I started off, I've taken a few acting classes, and one of them, you're trying to memorize a monologue. So for myself, the beginning actor, memorization is kind of tough, right? So what I would do is take the script and I'd write it in a notebook, because I figure as I'm reading and writing it down, it helps me memorize. So then I would go back and, read. Anyway, that notebook became almost like my Bible, because I'd write more stuff in it. I started TV shows I would watch. If I see characters I like, movies I watch, I write down stuff that stuck with me. So this little notebook, I actually have 3 of them now, because I ended up filling up the first one so fast, and I just keep going through them.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really great. And there's a chapter in there about making your own success, creating your own content. And I fully believe in this, and I think it's super neat. I'm curious because you have a pretty big personal presence. I noticed online because I looked you up at you're going to be on the show and everything. So personally, you've got a huge following, and then your show doesn't have a huge following yet, but it's going to, because you get a ton of views on YouTube already, kind of early success there. So how did you build up your personal brand?
Personal brand goes back to myself as a pilot. People love pictures of airplanes.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's the best answer we've ever gotten on this show ever. People love pictures of airplanes.
I'm going to tell you, because I learned this many, many years ago. First of all, my Instagram page, Herb Jackson Jr., I've had that for probably 8 or 9 years now. So one thing, it takes time to build it up. Second of all, like I said, people love airplanes, because literally I would post, cockpit photos or airplane photos, and everyone loves it and they want to follow you. Then I would post something that I like to do, like me sitting at a basketball game or eating lunch or whatever. And I noticed, I'm like, God, why did not this many people like this picture? And then you post another aviation picture and boom, it goes crazy. I was on vacation. This is many years ago. And I taking pictures. I started taking pictures of I was in a city that had some trains. And so I was down in the tunnel, and, being, creative and photographic, you're trying to catch the train coming through the tunnel and the lighting and all that good stuff. I took a couple of pictures I thought were really good. So I post them online, and I never will forget this, because you can't, pay attention to all those comments. But this one guy says, "Hey man, what's with the trains?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Well, I want to watch airplane pictures. What are you doing posting train pictures?" and right then I realized, you know what? It's really not about me. It's about the airplanes.
Yeah.
So, it actually kind of stung at first, but once I understood that, I just, give them what they want. So that's what I've been doing.
Did you tell them that you were also a conductor? And that's why.
That would have been a great answer. My gosh.
With one of those little train whistles, dude.
Yeah.
So that's a great story though, and there's something we can all learn from that, because there's a part in the book too about branding and about being consistent and finding sort of where you lie. And I know that's always been a struggle for us, because we do a lot of things under this roof. We've got a casting wing as a part of what we do. We do really high level corporate training. I was joking one day that I'm literally training for a Fortune 50 company, one of the top 50 companies in the world. And I'm training these people. And these are like high ups at this company. And then within like 30 minutes of finishing my workshop, I am then teaching about 3 or 4 like 5 and 6 year olds, and it's so fascinating to me just to go like, wow, like that'll humble you really quick. But B, just like where do we sit? How do we market to 6-year-olds and to the highest level executives on the planet simultaneously? And that's always been a part of our challenge, but we believe in both, we're connecting life and acting together. And so we have found a way to marry all these things, and it all comes into the same craft, but we're honestly still working toward it. And you made a very good point here. People want airplanes. I'm giving them airplanes. They love what I'm giving them. And then when I try to put in a train or lunch or something, they're like, "What are you doing? Why you're ruining your brand? You've got a cool brand. I like it. Stop doing that thing." and you'd almost have to start your own wing, like a different Instagram that would be, Herb's train picks or something.
Herb's train picks.
which I guess makes sense for why you started a new Instagram for the show. So as to not, convolute the brand you had already built personally, right, with the airplanes.
Yes, the show page it was done just for that reason. One, for me, it's a challenge to build something back up again. Knowing that I've done it once, I want to try and do it again. Second of all, out of the people, like you say, that follow me, they're there for airplanes. So yes, there's a percentage of those that like you for you, and they do support and love the fact that I'm working on acting and trying new things. But to keep, pitching to that audience that the majority is not interested in that, I felt, well, you're kind of beating yourself up against the wall. So why not start another one? So that's why I started the 5 Minutes with Herb Instagram page. And it's basically all about the show and shows in general. I repost like my guest shows that they're on and stuff like that. So if you're a media show actor type person, you're going to find 5 Minutes with Herb. You'll probably like that versus my other one, which is, airplanes.
Yeah. And so for everyone that's out there, you need to go to Instagram, follow Herb at 5 Minutes with Herb. And it's a great channel. And don't be fooled by right now. I think there's like 100 and something followers. His personal has got way over 20,000 followers. Like, this guy is successful. This show is going to take off. So do yourself a favor, get in early and connect into that channel. I'm very excited for you and for the future of the show. Yep, there he is.
This is Herb's personal page. Here's these airplane pics. I think this is my favorite right here. This is a little bit of a throwback. That's a really cool photo. And then
that is a throwback, that's for sure.
If we come up here, we got 5 Minutes with Herb. And this is what that page looks like. Check it out. And look at
that last post. That was an awesome one.
Right here, baby.
Herb, do you have a connection to athletes at all? Because I've noticed there's sort of a posting thread there.
Yes, I'm a huge sports fan. All my teams are Los Angeles. I was born in Los Angeles. As a kid, we moved around a lot, so we just kept the LA teams as our favorites.
Just hopefully the Chargers more than the Rams. Just hopefully. Hopefully that's the case.
He's gonna have to go with no comment there. I think.
No comment.
They're still the San Diego Chargers to me.
Okay, you know what? That's fair.
That's a great answer.
I'll give you that. Yeah. I didn't understand why they moved.
One football team in Los Angeles, and there's also one basketball team in Los Angeles. That's the Lakers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those other guys. They also came from San Diego. They were the San Diego Clippers at one time.
Yeah, and I saw that picture of Kobe up there on your feed too. That shook me pretty hardcore when Kobe passed. Was that a big deal for you and your family? Was that something that you saw and it was like an eye opener?
Yeah, it was devastating. I actually, how deep we want to go here?
All the way. 2 feet.
Throughout my traveling to games, let me just start the whole thing. Growing up as a kid, being a Lakers fan, you watch on TV in the old days of, Magic Johnson and Kareem and James Worthy, and you see all that stuff, and you're like, go Lakers, Well, as you get older, you have money, you have jobs, and you can afford to start going to some of these games. So, probably I want to say, well, it's 2020. So let's go back about 15 years. Started attending more games, Kobe's a player, and you start buying better seats. So you sit a little closer. I don't know if you saw, there's a Instagram picture of me sitting right behind the Lakers bench, taking pictures and stuff. So as you watch more games, you get closer access, you start meeting people. And over time, I had met some of the security folks with the Lakers, media personnel, assistant coaches, stuff like that. And you start to form friendships. because not only would I go to the games here in Phoenix, I would see them on their East Coast trips. So I would, be in Boston or New York or Philadelphia or Cleveland, Miami, Charlotte. I would vacation so I could go on these road trips, which occurred under normal circumstances in February. They have what's called the Grammy trip. Staples Center is closed, so the Lakers travel usually to the East Coast on a Grammy road trip. So I would take vacation. It's usually, 12 to 14 day trip. You catch about 4 or 5, maybe 6 games, depending on the back-to-back schedule. And you see a lot of games. Over time, like I say, I met a lot of people, became close friends with folks. And through one of those associations, I actually drove Kobe Bryant from the arena to the airport.
He was in your car.
Yeah, it was actually the last game he played in Phoenix.
What?
And like I said, I don't know how much I should go into this story, but long story short, when his last year, of course, remember that's during spring training, so you have all the baseball players there. Larry Fitzgerald was there. And he also had a documentary he was doing. So the media request, the team won 15 games his last year. So it wasn't like, they were on national TV every night, but he had such a media presence because it was his last year. Yeah. And being his last game in Phoenix, it literally took, I want to say, probably 45 minutes to an hour before he was even able to get to the shower. So, you had all these baseball players, signing autographs and stuff, pictures, all that good stuff, doing his media request. Well, in the meantime, a friend of mine who does security they're trying to get out. So he's getting all the players out into the bus and they're going to the airplane. So I get this text message. He says, "Hey man, do you have your car here?" I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "You're going to give us a ride to the airport." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to send the team ahead. They can go ahead and eat. Kobe's going to be a little bit longer, and go talk to the security guy and they'll get you all set up." So, by the way, I forgot to say, I was down in the tunnel behind the locker room when all this occurred. Once again, because I'm friends with these guys, they bring me down and get to say hi to folks and all that good stuff. It's, friends and family, right? So the security guard, I go get my car and America West Arena. What do they call it now?
Solid question.
Come on.
The
Talking
Phoenix-
Stick?
Talking Stick Arena. Thank you.
Yeah, see, I'm so old, America West Arena.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, I bring my car up, I go through the same place where the players park and down in the tunnel and everything, and I'm sitting there waiting, and there literally is probably 55 to, probably 75 people standing outside this door, all media with their cameras and stuff, and everyone waiting for Kobe to come out. So I just bring my car right up, open the door, and I text my friend and say, "Hey, by the way, when you come out, there's, a bunch of people here waiting and a couple people want to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. Just give them heads up." And so he comes out and the cameras go and he shakes hands, takes a couple pictures, and I bring him over. "Hey man, how you doing?" Get in the car and we all pile in and get off, and I drove him to the airport. And the cool thing was I had met him before. So that's one of the reasons why my friend allowed me to drive. We had familiarity with each other. It wasn't like some stranger or whatever. Plus, I've worked at the airport for many, many years. So to be able to explain, because we drove up onto the tarmac right next to the airplane and let him off, and he walked upstairs.
Oh, wow.
So like my friend said, trying to explain that to an Uber driver or something, whereas I already knew all that. So we did that, and I dropped him off. So when the day of his helicopter accident, I was actually, group text with 8,000 people. I was in a group text with him and a couple of security guys. And we literally, I can't remember what we were talking about, but for some reason it was, I can't remember, but we're just texting. And another friend sent me this image, and it says the TMZ thing, I think, broke it first. It says, "Hey, there's Kobe Bryant's helicopter is missing," or whatever. So I sent it to him, And I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And he's like, nah, that's not true. And as he says that, it was probably 45 seconds later, he's like, hey, he got a phone call. And from that moment on, it just, I mean, it was just devastating. And literally that whole day was, it was a fog. I don't, you know, we look at celebrities and blah, 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 and think they're invincible, whatever. They're human beings just like you and I. And even if I had not ever had personal knowledge or meeting Kobe, I still would have been devastated. But it was even more devastating knowing that I had actually met him and knowing what a great guy that he actually was. So after it happened, and we were confirmed, you know, he had a bunch of stuff he had to do. And I remember I got in the shower and I was in there for 45 minutes just crying. It was like my brother had died. That whole, I mean, my phone, the phone was just loaded with messages because a lot of people know I knew Kobe. So the phone was just loaded with messages. I just turned the phone off. I sat on the couch and probably just sat there for, I want to say an hour and a half, with just, my mind was just blank. I was just numb. And that happened. I had just come off of the Laker road trip where I was we went to the game in Madison Square Garden and then Brooklyn, and I came home. They played Philadelphia that Saturday. I think this was a Sunday. Yeah, I had just come home that Friday, and the next day I was leaving for London, which was bad in itself because I'm like, this is terrible. So the next day you wake up, I'm going to London. I'll get away from this. You know, I'll be fine. Well, literally, fly to London, land, and my driver comes up, and it's great because I had just been there in October, so I ended up with the same driver. And he's like, "Oh, Mr. Jackson, how you doing?" He says, "Did you hear about Kobe Bryant?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was like literally like someone just, boom. And I just froze. And he kind of looked at me, and he goes, "Did you know him?" I'm like, yeah, I met him, and it was just, I didn't know what to say. So even I'd gone all the way across the world and thought I was going to get away with it. You can't get away from it. So yeah, it was pretty bad. And even sometimes it's still amazing to me that he's actually gone. But that's life. And one of the reasons why we need to enjoy, you know, the time that we have while we're here.
Absolutely. Herb, that is an unbelievable story. Thank you for sharing. So I would love right now give you the floor to talk about how great of a guy he really was. Because, you know, I obviously, not obviously, but I never did get to meet him or anything. But from what you hear about him, you know, just like everybody else, he went through some trials and tribulations and whatnot, but he was a pretty good dude, it sounds like, and he definitely lived this mastery mindset that I believe in. And so he's somebody that I've looked up to and looked toward as an example of how to work as a man and how to you know, be a family man and take care of your kids. I mean, just the trip he was on in general. He's with his daughter and he's going to a girls' basketball game. I mean, it ripped me open on the inside as a dad, just realizing that it felt like here's this guy doing everything right, and it's this wake up call, you know, for all of us that we don't know when our time is up, you know, and to really live every day to the fullest. But tell us about Kobe. Like, I mean, I know you didn't know him like super deep, but from seeing little interactions and how he interacted with the press and just even talking to you in a short period of time, I mean, was he a really sincere, good dude?
It was unbelievable. He was awesome. Two things. One, long before I ever met him, part of the way I became a pilot was studying and reading about him and Michael Jordan. Because I wasn't, you know, no one's born in the left seat of a 737. So long before I actually made it to that point, same thing. I'm frustrated. I'm struggling. You know, oh my God, I'm never, ever going to get here. Well, reading about, Kobe in his first playoff game, I think they played Utah. And at the end of the game, the dude shot like 3 air balls. And they lost the game. And you think, man, oh man, that guy, it's not too, I mean, I think, Matt, you play basketball, right?
Yeah. Love the sport.
I mean, dude, there's only a couple of things that humiliate you really bad. One is getting your shot blocked, but 2 is shooting a freaking air ball.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Especially in crunch time.
Yeah.
From a guy who was trying to model himself and use Michael Jordan as his stepping stone, and he's shooting air balls in playoff game. So reading about his struggles and how after that game, they come back from Utah, the team lands, he gets a ball, dude, and goes to the gym and just, I think he shot till 3 or 4 in the morning, saying to himself that would never, ever happen again. And seeing and understanding how hard he worked and realizing that, you know what, you just got to go in there and put in the work and don't ever give up. That was one of the main things I got from him. So at that time in my life, I was working towards flying, and literally every day I would do something every day, which is similar to kind of what you say in your book too. For acting, you got to do something every day.
Yeah.
Even the littlest thing, being on your show right now, this is helping me towards, being on camera, lights, all that good stuff. Speaking with people, it's helping. So you need to do something every day. That's, if you look at guys, Kobe or whoever, basketball players, we see them shoot in a game, they may take 20 shots, but they probably took 500 shots before the game.
Yeah.
Just in warm-ups, and not the warm-ups you see when us fans go into the arena. This is, hours and hours before the game when they're working on, specific things, specific moves. They're shooting, boom, boom, boom. That's one of the blessings and joys I've had is being able to watch some of those workouts and see guys just, watch them do the same thing over and over and over and not miss.
Yeah.
And then in the game, see that exact same move they were working on 3 hours prior and watch it come through. That's crazy. And the other thing about Kobe, I will say this, in our conversation, he mentioned, I'm not afraid to die, which that's what really stuck me the day it happened. He said, I'm not afraid to die. I know I'm going to heaven. And those words, I swear to God, were just repeating in my head. I just couldn't believe it. But knowing how he felt, the part of me was like, hey, you know what? He's not afraid. Quit crying. Put your big boy pants on and let's move on. So
he was a man of faith then, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Trust me, the conversation we had, it is what it is, but I can tell you that he said, I am not afraid to die.
Yeah. I think that's huge, actually. We've talked about that quite a bit over here. When my big awakening happened, it was February 2nd, 2018. I call it the day I woke up. I really connected into God and spirit and this whole like living life to the fullest at a whole new level. And one of the things I had to do was release that fear in general, but the greatest fear is the fear of death. And if you can overcome that for real and really, really believe it, you have to kind of get to the other side of even everybody around you and understand that this is all part of a bigger workings here, and release that, because we don't know. And Kobe's a great example of some, like I have another story of a friend of my sister's, healthy guy in his 30s. He's out on a run in the morning, totally fit. He's just doing a run. He gets hit by a car, dies. Just like that. And he's got his family, man. He's got like 4 kids. And just like, you can't explain something like that, mentally. It's like, how does that happen, right? And so knowing that time is absolutely the most valuable asset that we have, we've got to make sure that we're not wasting any of it. that I call it pack your, you love this as a flight guy. Pack your bags the night before. Every night you gotta pack your bags the night before, get up as if you're getting on a flight, because the flight's gonna take off without you, just like an airplane. We're gonna leave because we're gonna leave on time. And if you're late, sorry. And I consider the plane to be like my success, my future success. And if I don't get myself up, if I don't pack the night before, if I don't prepare mentally, the flight to success is going to take off without me. So every night I have to do the discipline to prepare my mind for the next day. And that's what kind of drives me and motivates me to get up and focus on, what's next and how we're going to push forward.
That's huge. And it's funny you mentioned that, because literally myself as a pilot, I do pack the night before, and it's a routine. Similar to what your book, you need to set routines.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, and in the hotel, when I'm on the road, you might find this interesting. 90 minutes before I'm to be in the van, I begin getting ready to leave. And people say, it takes you an hour and a half to get ready? No, it doesn't take me an hour and a half to get ready. However, if no matter what city I'm in, what's going on, if I start to get ready 90 minutes prior, everything is covered.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving my toothpaste or my razor somewhere. I'm not forgetting this, that, the other. Everything all comes together because I can do it, not rushed. Everything gets in and boom. Just like packing the night before, I make sure everything. And you learn these things over time, because I have, gone on a trip and you get to the hotel and you open up, oh my God, I forgot to pack socks.
Right.
Or I forgot to pack underwear or something.
Yeah.
Right? So by doing it the night before, I know this sounds pretty simple and elementary, but it's a system that I have and it works. From that moment on, I've been flying for 20 years, and trust me, you just don't forget stuff. And that is also how we operate the aircraft. It's based on checklists and standardization and procedures.
Yeah.
And one of the things I see and that I'm learning with acting is, acting, it's, emotional, creative. It's not my, I don't know, left or right side of the brain, whichever is your analytical and crazy side. I don't know which is which. But this is more the other side that I'm used to using. However, there's a lot of things in acting where it is a procedures, step-driven type activity. The really good ones are doing all this in their heads and everything, and you can't tell a difference, and they deliver an unbelievable performance.
Yeah.
But they're not just winging it. There's years and years of study and everything to see what you see on television.
Yeah. Go ahead,
It's
Joe.
interesting you make that connection, because one thing that Matt says that has always stuck with me that I've noticed is he said some of the best improvisers he's ever met are engineers.
Yeah.
And it's because they use that side of the brain you're talking about that pilots use, where it's analytical. So once you learn the formula, you become very good at inserting what needs to be put into the scene. And that's the part where life does connect to acting. You see
Yes.
all of these parallels, and anybody can do it if they want to. They can find a piece of themselves that connects, and then that becomes what they are good at, and then they learn the rest, the stuff they're not good at yet. You know? And that's cool.
And think about this too, like in any position, but we'll just call it flying here. What are the stories we write about? It's when the plane was under duress, and the pilots were able to navigate through it, and they land, and there's all this like chaos going on. But you have to earn being able to do that. You first have to know how to do it under good circumstances and repeat it over and over and over and over again in order to improvise away from it, right? Mm-hmm. So then if those are the best stories, that's what we're writing about. And as an actor, you're always under duress. You're always under that pressure. The camera's on you, and things are happening. And so it's like, how do you react when the pressure's on? You've got to be formulaic. You have to have your procedures down. You have to understand how to get yourself into uncomfortable and then be comfortable in that place. Even being live here, Herb, you're live right now. The world is watching you live
right now.
Yeah. And you know, and we're gonna dive deep. By the way, you and me, we're gonna go even deeper when you start taking classes, because I'm very, very excited to get to know you better and to connect into your soft side there. I saw you hold back just a little bit.
That's the acting coach in him.
I can't help it.
But this stuff is like you dive into it, right? Like all the way 2 feet in, and then you just have to kind of survive from there, and you got to know all the tricks and tools, and you have to be really well versed in order to be comfortable in that uncomfortable space. And that's what I love about acting. I mean, acting essentially is, and it's the same thing as like Kobe or any of these athletes. As soon as the game starts, the pressure's on right away. You know, there's someone trying to attack you, trying to take you down right away. You know, the same thing when the camera rolls and we're live, and any mistake could happen. This used to get me very nervous, just being live. I used to hate it. Someone would like roll live near me. I'd be like, what are you doing? I'm not ready to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And now I don't even like, I don't even remember that I'm live. It's the weirdest thing, but from practice. And now so many times things have gone wrong while we were live, and we're able to navigate it in new ways because we don't panic, where we used to panic, you know?
Yeah.
And so obviously we've got a lot of growth to do. You know, there's still things we need to learn, but we've already come a long way. And that's something that, you know, we celebrate the small wins, and then we immediately try to get better. You know, that's part of our process. All right, Herb, we're going to end here with a quick little 5-minute speed through here. You've got a few questions for me. You want to hit me up with those?
Yeah, I think the first one I had for you was how you're doing an improv scene. And this comes directly from an experience I had. You're doing an improv scene with 2 other actors, and you're not getting feedback from them. In fact,
what do you mean by feedback?
Well, there's a scripted part, and at the end, you're supposed to go into improvisation.
Okay.
And as this scripted part ends, my line leads the next person or either one to join in and continue on this scene, right? You drop it in there, and it's nothing.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the answer. The silence, the non-response is a response, and you respond to that.
Okay.
So it goes like this,
like,
right?
wow.
Ready, guys? You guys, the non-response is a response. Okay. Here we go. All right, and that's the end of our segment here. Am I right, guys? Guys? Hello?
Oh, sorry. Headphones weren't working. My bad.
You're lying.
Okay, I'm lying. Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's going to happen, but your job is to make their non-response gold. So I always say the best improvisers are selfless. You're going to make everybody else around you look good, because you're like, and here's the best way to practice, by the way. We teach kids classes, and so we'll do these kids showcases, and I do this fun thing at the end. I call it the hot seat, and I let all the kids come up and sit next to me, and they're sitting in the hot seat, which means they're just going to be in a scene with me. Half the time they don't say anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh,
they
yeah.
freeze up, and so their non-response becomes a response to me. And then I keep trying to throw up softballs to them till eventually they hear laughs from the audience. They start to gain confidence, and before you know it, they're speaking. And then they are contributing something. And I'm just going, set up, let you be the hero, not me. Let you be the hero, not me. If you don't talk, that's because you meant to not talk. Your character meant to not talk. You know, your character is shy or whatever it is. And then you spin them into being gold. And basically, as an improviser, you have to self-sacrifice like crazy. I mean, you have to just lay yourself down and go, you know, you above me, you above me, you above me. That's the key to improv.
Well, thanks. That's makes a lot of sense. And thinking back to that scenario, I totally agree. It's one of those Bueller. Just put it back on them, and yeah, that's great.
And you'll get to a place of panic too. There's one other thing that everybody could write this down. This sentence here, which is, it's always your turn to talk and never your turn to talk.
Ooh.
You like that?
Yeah.
He said, ooh.
He's like,
So you end and you think, oh, it's their turn, so I'm done. So then I can check out and wait for you to go. No. I'm done, and then I listen. And is it still my turn? It might be. It's always my turn and never my turn. And I listen, and it's the only reason why I would speak is, does it serve the scene right now? So because it's not about me, I don't go through that panic. But the panic's going to happen when I go, hey, let me pass you the ball. Why are you not passing it back? What's going on? Did you not see I passed it to you, or do you not understand? And all these like things are going on in my mind, instead of how can I serve the scene? How can I serve the scene, right?
Yeah, and this wasn't on my questions, but it goes to what we're talking about now. Is one of the things, I guess, as a novice, a beginner, when especially you deliver a line and the other person is delivering theirs, in your mind, all you're thinking is, okay, my next line is blah, 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 blah. Or you're improv and you're like, okay, I'm going to say this. You're not actually listening. You're already pre-programming your response before the person even says anything. So for me, that was one of the big keys is turning off my head and listening and responding more in a natural way.
Yeah. That's exactly right, and that's what listening is all about. Listening at a super high level. That's what my next book is all about. Is purely listening to every degree, physically, spiritually. Listening to self, listening to others, listening to words, listening to environment, body language, all of it. And when you can kind of put all that together, you can get a really good read on somebody, and you can be honest and authentic in the moment, which is the key to acting, essentially.
Would you say it's really like about being maybe like the best listener in the room?
Yeah, the best listener in the room. Yeah, trademarked Matthew Deering, the best listener in the room. That is my next book.
He's like, I see what he was doing there. I get it now. Before that, he's like, what? That's very random, Brian. Does not make any sense.
Well, but it does make sense that you're the one saying the random thing.
Oh, that does make sense. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Yeah. All right, next question, Herb.
So as a someone who has witnessed quite a few auditions, both as an actor and the one on the other side, what are one or two of the main things you see that actors, I don't want to say fail, don't deliver, or cause them issues in auditions? Okay,
good. So number one is actors come into auditions overly confident, having not done the work. So you said, hey, we need this unhealthy confidence. I kind of disagree. We need a healthy confidence. We need an earned confidence is what I call it. So you definitely have to be confident in the room, but there's a difference between that and being arrogant. And I think a lot of actors are arrogant, and not even on purpose. I don't consider them bad people. I know that's a harsh word that people might be offended by, but I mean, like, I think you're being arrogant if you show up and you think you're all that. You know, instead you should walk in going, okay, how can I serve client? How can I serve the product? How can I serve the script? How can I serve the director? Service. If you have that mindset and you're really prepared and you're confident that you can be manipulated and used almost like a puppet in such a way, because that's your job, you're the performer, then you're going to do really, really well. But a lot of actors come in having not done the work, and they're overconfident when they walk in the room. And then number two is what we just talked about, which is the idea of listening. People a lot of times don't listen to the room. And so the most obvious example of this is when you're tense, it's super hard to listen. And so I'll just overly exaggerate. If people walk in the room like this, very, very tight, putting on some kind of a persona that they think we want to see, instead of being themselves, coming down into the room, listening, and finding what's best answer. Because best answer is there, and the casting director wants you to do well, but you got to come into the room in order for that to happen. Now that's easier said than done, because it's a nerve-wracking experience to have cameras and lights and a director and all these people in the room. It's nerve-wracking, and that's where your practice comes in. That's where you talked about Kobe, and I fully believe the same thing. Like, what you do in the dark, you get praised for in the light. So the question is, did you put your reps in the night before, the day before, 2 days before that? Like, as soon as you got the script, did you start working on it, or did you wait till the night before? Did you wait till the morning of? And oftentimes, I have to hold myself accountable to the same thing. And that's where my worksheets come in, where I can be honest with myself. Because for me, landing a role but not doing my best to prep is a loss. And not landing a role but doing my best to prep, like the very best I could, that's a win. Because that means I've progressed this way. This way means I didn't progress forward. In fact, I probably went backwards. Even though I got the job and I'm going to make money, to me, that's a little bit irrelevant because that doesn't set me up for the next job. And I'm always more interested in my own skill set, building that, than I am the short-term win. It's like I'm going for championships. I'm not going for, just this like short win here in the scrimmage.
That's good. That's good. I guess, let me see. What was the other question I had was, a beginning actor comes to your studio and they start at some level having this block where things just aren't working. Either they, can't memorize, voice isn't working, improv, they're not working. They're just at this block. How do you get through those stumbling blocks or mental blocks to continue on your path?
Yeah, so I think the same is true of life as is in acting. We talk a lot about the connection between life and acting, and so for me, it's just it's got to be a jolt to the system, something that's going to be extraordinary. So if I'm struggling with, let's say, memorizing, for instance, I'm going to go hardcore is what I'm going to do. So to overcome that block, I'm going to put in like 5 days in a row, 6 hours a day, memorizing Shakespeare, something really hard that's like that I feel is probably impossible. However close I get to that thing, pushing that muscle, when I go back to the thing that I felt was a block, I'm going to be through it. I'm going to be past it. So okay. For me, it's like if I didn't wake up in the morning, say 2 days in a row, like if that ever happens, instead of waking up at 4:30, I'm gonna almost punish myself, but I'm gonna go backwards and I'm gonna go, okay, it's 3:30 now until you learn your lesson, basically. and I jolt my system, and it makes you feel good. If I'm off on my eating, it's like, all right, now you're gonna need to go through a week fast, like something that's gonna get your mind right, and remind yourself that you are capable, that you are stronger than you think you are, because usually it is just a mental block and you have to kind of like fight through it. And so I think the best way to do that is some kind of a big jolt to your system. And if you tell your coach that too, if you've got the right coach, they can do that for you in the room too. Like if you told me something like that, I would ask you a few additional questions as far as what you're doing and where you're at. And then I would find a couple ways to punch your system and go, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Like as soon as someone tells me they're afraid to dance, I'm like, great, next private lesson, we're dancing. That's what we're doing, Like I want to help people overcome their fears immediately. And it's not like you need to become a professional dancer. You just don't need to be afraid of it, Yeah. And so that's, I think it all comes back down to fear at the end of the day. If we can figure out what you're afraid of and then jolt you past it, that's going to be a win.
Thank you. That the reason I brought that up is I go back to, once again, flying. And a friend of mine, a couple years ago, he got his private license and then worked on his instrument rating. And I told him, to become a better pilot, you need to get your instrument rating. And I had the same problem that he ended up having. And I was able to explain to him, instrument flying, especially in the old days, we didn't have all this wonderful digital stuff. It was analog. So it's like looking at a watch and you see the small hands on the 8 and the large hands on the 12. You don't say the small hands on the 8, the large hands on the 12. You say, oh, it's 8 o'clock. I mean, you just glance at it and right?
Right.
Same thing with instrument flying. At some point in your career, you're going to look down and be like, the plane's like this, and how the plane is based on your instruments, not by looking outside. But until you get to that point, oh my God, it's like you will never, ever, ever be able to fly the airplane. And it's just a block. And I had it, and literally, I honestly don't know how I got out of it, but one day it just, boom. So I explained to my friend the same thing. Hey, eventually you just keep working and get through it. And the reason I brought that up was because now as an actor, that's where I find myself at now. I'm getting better at script analysis and memorization. But but positioning your body, not blinking my eyes, depth of pitch with my voice. There's all these little things that you've been reading and studying, or now it's kind of like, you're just literally at a block.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked, because
well, good. And a lot of those things are symptoms. Like those are the outside symptoms to going back to the work, which is the instrument training, going back to the fundamentals. And that's what I'm talking about. Like you just dive really hardcore into something fundamental that is going to rock you forward, and it will be hard on purpose. Like you almost want it to be. You're not afraid of that. You go, okay, so what is the work that I don't want to do? Let me go, okay, I'm doing all these bad habits, like they're coming up. These are symptoms. Let me go back to the thing. What do I not want to do? I don't want to spend another 12 hours memorizing. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start there. Go all the way back to the fundamentals and then build up from there.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much. This was freaking awesome. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for getting up with us, Herb. This has been a lot of fun talking to you. I cannot believe that Black Mamba was in the back of your car. That is so cool.
Yeah, friends of mine, I actually traded that car and I got a new one. But people said I should have taken a Sharpie and had him sign the seat. And called it the Kobe edition, Cadillac Escalade. But yeah, that's one of many stories I have that we can talk about some other time.
Sure. Well, many blessings to you, my friend. Good luck with your show, everyone. Make sure you follow Herb. It's 5 minutes with Herb. I know we would love to be a part of your show.
We would love to be a part of your show, but I don't know if we can do anything in 5 minutes.
Well, Herb, he's the pilot. See, he steers the ship, and he knows. He navigates. He knows exactly what he's doing. He gets right to the juice. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
And if you do notice, though, 5 minutes with Herb, they do run about.
He's like a little bit over 5.
He's like maybe
It's
a little more.
5 minutes plus with Herb.
I tell people all the time, if I said, "Hey, Joey, can you take a phone call?" I just need 5 minutes. What are the chances are that phone call actually lasts 5 minutes?
Not high. No.
Exactly. So this is the same thing. It's just a conversation. Our goal is 5 minutes, but fortunately my guests are so wonderful and they have lots of good things to say. You let them go and it ends up being a little longer than 5 minutes.
Fair enough.
Boom.
Fair enough. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Mornings with Matt, the Deering Acting Studio podcast. We are connected to Lighthouse Theater. We are trying to spread light-driven content across this planet. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. Help us do that thing. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.